Registration for the 2023 AFCA Convention is now open. Join us as AFCA returns to the Queen City. Mark your calendars for January 8th through the 10th, 2023 in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you are attending the convention, dues, fees, and ticket requests not received by December 10th will be processed on-site at a higher convention fee and ticket price. For more information, visit afca.com.
This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring Northern Arizona University's Aaron Pflugrad. Coach Pflugrad takes us through his coaching philosophy, talks about quarterback recruiting, and shares the impact his father had on his coaching journey. Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Pflugrad.
Coach, what's going on? Thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Coach Bryce.
No doubt, man. Well, for anybody that doesn't know at this point, Coach did swing by and stop by and visit us here in the Waco offices. So, we get a visitor from time to time, but he spent an extended period with us. So I do appreciate that, man. How was spring, summer, and heading into the fall? How's that been going for you?
Oh, it's great. We got really good weather out here in Flagstaff. So just enjoying that and getting the guys back on campus training. Got some camps coming up, so looking forward to those.
Yeah, man. Well, let's kind of dive into this thing, man. You much like some of our coaches. I mean, I won't say all of them by any means, or even probably half of them, but we have a decent amount of coaches that hop on, and as we dig in and learn a little bit about them, we find out that they come from a little bit of a lineage of coaches, right? And you grew up as a son of a college football coach, and it's funny as we spend a lot of conversations here on this podcast talking about the work-life balance, being a college coach and being a good father to make sure your kids see you, they're not bouncing around all over the place. But you're on the flip side of that. You were a college coach's kid. Just tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in that atmosphere.
Yeah, I was blessed. My dad bounced around a little bit, but about 5 years in each place, and started in Montana. And they were able to win the national championship there in '95, and then to Arizona State, Rose Bowl team with Bruce Snyder, with Jake Plummer and Pat Tillman and those guys. Unfortunately, got let go there, and then up to Washington State with Coach Price, and got the opportunity to be, around another Rose Bowl team there, and then over to Oregon from there with Chip Kelly, who, changed college football forever.
Yeah.
And so got to experience all those things and got to be around it. And I think that's why I was so passionate about it, and played at Oregon and Arizona State, and got a small shot with the Eagles with Andy Reid there. But I think through all that, I learned the right way to do things, but also unique ways to do things. And from that, I have the belief that, every school in college football, has a formula to win and a formula for success. And it's about discovering that formula and then attacking it every day and getting after it. And so that's what I learned through all those, because a lot of vastly different experiences,
right.
But met a lot of great people and show me that you can have success, wherever it is that you're at.
Well, let me ask you this. Obviously you had the playing career that went, anytime you get a shot, whether it's a day with a professional team or a year, that's a big feat. But so clearly you had this good playing career. At what point in your journey, or really in your dad's journey, as you're bouncing around these places, seeing these different cultures, I'm talking about program cultures, did you say, man, this is what I want to do? I want to be a college football coach like Dad. Like, at what point did that hit you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I kind of took offense to it. I was one of those guys that, people would say, hey, you're going to be a good coach or whatever. And I'm going to go play 10 years in the NFL. What are they talking about coaching, my senior year at ASU, I read a book called Season of Life, football book. I'm sure a lot of people listening have read it, but said, there's a destiny that makes those brothers, none go their way alone. All that we pour into the lives of others comes back into our own. And I really thought about, hey, how can I pour into the lives of other people? And it was football. I did the business major and all that, but it's what I've known and known my whole life. And really feel at home being a part of a program. With those moves and everything, the one thing that was constant was you going to work with Dad and be around a program. And so feel real fortunate to be able to do that and to, pour into young people now.
That's awesome, man. Well, the word has it that you'd like to spend a lot of time chewing your tight end coach out over there. That's what everybody keeps telling me. But no, seriously, your dad's a tight end coach at NAU now. So you're the offensive coordinator there. He's the assistant head coach. You're the OC. He's the tight end coach. So kind of a unique dynamic there, right? I know every now and again when a tight end drops the ball, you just want to give him a mean stare or something like that. But no, what has that experience been like?
Yeah, it's been great. And, looking back, one of the reasons I wanted to get in this profession was because of my dad and the coaches that he worked with. But something that really stayed with me is we're at Washington State and actually at a Rose Bowl practice. We're at the Coliseum there at SC, and Mike Price was moving on to Alabama, and it was taking about half the staff, and my dad was still undecided and came up to me and said, "Aaron, we're not going anywhere. We're staying in Pullman, Washington, because it's the right thing for our family." And so that's the type of guy he is. And that just really stuck with me because here it is, Alabama, right? Pinnacle of college football, and turns it down, stay at Washington State because he thought it was the best move for us. So the type of man that I wanted to be, someone that put others first and specifically family. And so, having him on staff's been great, and a guy who has so much experience on the West Coast in the Big Sky Conference. I think everybody needs a guy like that on staff, and just happens to be my dad, but it's definitely been a great experience, day to day to have him around.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask this question in all seriousness. It doesn't change his dad, but at the same time, that dynamic in those offensive staff meeting rooms, as I spent many, many years sitting in those meetings, that the offensive coordinator takes the leadership role and is divvying out ideas. And, the really good ones that definitely listen to their offensive position coach, things like that. But, how do y'all manage that relationship? Especially when you might need something out of the tight ends a little bit more or something like that. How are some of those conversations?
Right. Going back to Oregon, I made the decision to go there and play for my dad as my position coach and in college. And so, doesn't get any more awkward than that, right? Yeah. Trying to find a way as a freshman in college and having your dad there as position coach. So after that, you just figure out a way to navigate through things and divide it up and say, hey, this is, when we're talking ball and talking work, and then try to not bring it to the dinner table to make mom upset,
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of balance there. But like you said, having that experience as a player definitely probably aided that a little bit. Got through the lumps on the conversational stuff. Now, you played quarterback, right?
Played wide receiver.
Played wide receiver. Okay, you played wide receiver. That's even better, right? Because coaching quarterbacks, that is a unique deal, right? I mean. Typically, the quarterback coaches are guys that have played. And it's definitely not always the case, but a lot of times because there's so much specific uniqueness to it. Is there a coach that you kind of look to, or mentored from in order to kind of develop, your quarterbacks? Is there a coach that you look to whenever you have a question or anything like that?
Yeah, a guy who's been great to me throughout the years is Chip Kelly, now at UCLA. And really changed my mind on things my freshman season. We got all the way to rank number 2 in the country and had Dennis Dixon, tore his ACL, but probably would have won the Heisman that year, in 2007. And Chip, came in from New Hampshire that year, and it was really 1-2 check down run. And Dennis almost won the Heisman doing that. And so that's always stuck with me, and making things simple for the quarterback. And was reading a book recently, Daniel Coyle, Talent Code. And he was talking about chess players, and they studied all the best chess players and thought that they had memorized the board, but they moved all the pieces around and found that they hadn't memorized the board, but rather memorized patterns in the board, and they call that chunking in the chess world. And so we really take that with our quarterbacks and recognizing those patterns and having, certain progressions where we're reading, keying this exactly the same. And so we're deploying our 5 eligibles totally differently to the defense. But for a quarterback, it's recognizing which pattern this is in regards to our progression and making things very simple for them.
Yeah.
And so that's always stuck with me. And, we're able to lead the country in passing in 19 and looking to get back to that going forward this fall. But really trying to do that and originally got that all the way back in 2007 from what Chip did with Dennis when he had a junior year where he was, hit and miss and some interceptions and then almost won the Heisman Trophy and keeping it really simple that way.
I love hearing you just mentioned y'all led in passing in 19 and obviously have done well over the years. I just love hearing whenever you get to talking about some of these things. Dennis Dixon, I remember watching him. It's probably my senior year in college. And it always comes back to keep it simple. Just keep it simple. Like whenever I get to talking to guys, everything is about the simplicity of it, not the complexity. And that's awesome that you've been able to find some success there. Now, in terms of your offense, and maybe some of your philosophies in regards to how you do things, where have you dug? I would assume probably some of the same places, but where are some of the places that you've pulled from in order to put your offense together?
Yeah, I think it's pulling from everything and making it your own and figuring out what works for you. And it's about players, not plays, right? So what do you have on a yearly basis? But Chip and Coach Frost, from the Oregon days, are certainly great guys and guys that I try to go to study with, at least once per year. And then also at ASU, the connections there with Noel Mazzoni in the end zone system, and then GA for Mike Norvell for 3 years, and his system that he brought to Memphis and was very prolific and everything like that. Talking with Kenny Dillingham, who's up at Oregon now. So all those guys, Coach Plow, is the offensive coordinator at Boise State, and he was at NAU. So just taking things from all those guys and continuing to study other teams as well, and seeing if get your foot in the door there, and they'll talk to you, and just always trying to optimize everything we do, and not reinventing the wheel, but finding a better way to do things within the framework of our offense.
I love it, man. I also love some of the names you just mentioned there. Obviously, the head coaches; those are well known. But Coach Dillingham's, man, good friend of mine. He's been tremendous for the AFCA, just as well as Timothy Plow. Both former 35 and 35 guys that have done tremendous for themselves, but always willing to. Man, I mean, you ask Kenny a question about ball, I mean, you better free up your next 2 hours, man, because he gets going, man, and he's not afraid to share. So I always appreciate him for that. Now, as you know, all this doesn't happen without the Jimmies and the Joes, right? Regardless of what you're running, you got to have those cats. Just talk to us a little bit about recruiting at the FCS level, especially right now. One of the big advantages that FCS always had, in my opinion, especially when I was coaching small FBS, was, if it was a Division I transfer, they were going to go the FCS route. That was something that was always that kind of always gave that group some better players maybe than ULM, which is where I was at the time. Now that this one-time transfer is kind of instituted and kicked in, how has recruiting changed for you guys?
Yeah, I think at our level, it's always about evaluation, because we're not going to get to finished product. And then on top of that, only having 63 polls, where if you miss on a guy, that's going to really hurt you. Yeah. You're not going to have much depth, and you're going to be counting on guys across the board, especially if they're on scholarship. So you have to be right. And so we really hang our hat on doing the character research and finding out that this is a guy that's going to come in and work every single day. Because as you said, if a guy gets in the portal with experience at the FBS level, he's not going to go FCS.
Yeah.
He's looking to go up to Power 5 and everything like that. And so it really comes down to our evaluation. And Coach Ball's going to hang his hat on. We're going to take guys with great character that work hard every day, and that are mentally and physically tough. And we go more by built, not born here. and how we build that every day starts in the weight room. Have a great coach there and Coach Shoemate, and getting the guys that are going to put in the work every single day. And we feel like if we can do that and hang our hat on that, we're going to have a team with great character that we can win a lot of games with going forward.
Absolutely. Well, you said something really interesting there, and the less scholarships you got, the more important it becomes, and I think it's important regardless. But you made a good point there. When you have 63 versus the 85, you can't miss. I mean, you have to do your due diligence and make sure the guy that you're bringing in, has the ceiling that you think, and all this kind of stuff. But let's be real, right? You miss sometimes. It's just a part of it. A guy comes in and maybe he's not as good as you thought, or character is not as good as you thought. The quarterback position, I coach receivers. I missed on a receiver before, and we were still good. We still had enough guys in that room. But when you miss on quarterbacks, man, that's tough. So when you go and you're rolling through film, and you don't have to get into all the juicy details, but what are a couple of things that you're looking for, via the film, and then you can follow that up with when you actually meet the quarterback in person. What are a couple of things that you're looking for?
Right. We were fortunate. We had Case Cook is here for a lot of years. He's in that new league playing for Philadelphia. And, we found him in camp in June, and then he came in and won the Jerry Rice Award, his freshman year. And he was,
Wow.
gray shirting at Ventura College. I hadn't played a college snap. So we got kind of lucky with that. But, and then RJ Martinez came in from the Austin area and was Big Sky freshman of the year last year, so we've had some good ones coming through here. And, I think one of the things that's unique is, Coach Ball, I have a small area in Arizona, but then he gives me the ability to go out and watch guys throw and watch guys in the spring. And that's real important because I think a lot of times the only way to evaluate character is face to face. And so we get out there and we're looking for a guy who is accurate, right? A guy who can get the ball out of his hand, a guy who makes good decisions, and a guy who can make the defense account for his feet. We don't want a basic guy back there. We want a guy who's magic, right? Who can make things happen. And so those are the things that we're looking for off film. And then the main thing that I look for is this guy a multiplier? Is he a guy who makes people around him better? Is he a guy who raised the level of his program? Because if he can do that in high school, then he has the ability to do that in college. And so we look for that in regards to maybe a school that didn't win a lot of games before this quarterback was there. Maybe a team that struggled on offense and really makes that thing go and really doesn't have a lot of weapons around them. And so we're able to, like they say in real estate, location. And we're the closest FCS school to Phoenix, Vegas, Southern California. And then they have direct flights from Dallas and Denver.
Yeah.
So we feel like if we can find the most accurate guy who's a great leader, who can run around a little bit in one of those areas every year, and have a program filled with those guys, we're going to be successful at that spot.
Man, I love to hear that. Now, just a little bit of philosophy, especially since you probably been keeping up with ball a little bit longer than most guys your age. Obviously, when we were playing, as a player and high school kid, I watched football on Saturdays, but I didn't know ball like that. But I'm assuming you knew ball a little bit better than most high school kids and most collegiate kids, just having all that experience watching your dad do it for such a long time. And it's really interesting. You talked about Chip Kelly changing college football in a lot of different ways, but you really saw the emergence of the athletic quarterback, the guy that could pull that ball down and run. And you saw it with Nebraska was doing it in the late 90s a little bit. So you definitely saw it prior to, but do you ever see it going back to the big pocket passer dude, or is that kind of where we're at? I mean, because it's trickled up to the NFL, man. I mean, even the NFL are looking for those dudes. What do you think?
Right. I think there's teams that go wholesale. They're going to run their quarterback 20 plus times per game. I don't know if it's ever going to get to that, but at the same time, it's gotten to the point where defensively, you don't want to play 10 on 11. Yeah. You want to play 11 on 11. And and make the defense account for that guy in their structure and what they do. And that's really, really changed the game, along with the tempo aspect and everything like that. But at the end of the day, you need a guy that can sling it back there. So I don't think the pocket passer is truly dead, but statues are dead. If you have a statue back there, I don't know if that's going to work anymore. And you look across college football and like you said, trickling in the NFL, I think it's got to be a guy that can move a little bit. And now in my opinion, height's not as important, right? You got the Kyler Murray, Russell Wilsons, where it's more about having a guy that can really operate your system and do it at a high level and not necessarily having to be the prototypical size.
I love that you pinpointed that, which kind of your loose philosophy on the height thing. I mean, you're right. I totally escaped me that you are seeing a lot more 5'10s, where if you were 5'10 and, high school, they're like, no, dude, get in that line. You're with the receivers,
right,
the running backs. And, now it's, you're seeing these guys running around at that next level. What's your philosophy? If the guy can do it, he can do it, or what?
Yeah. Our guy, he's 5'11", 5'11 and a half. And RJ from Texas. And that's kind of changed my viewpoint on it. Before that, we have the 6'5", 6'3" guys and everything like that. But in my mind, there's just a limit of guys that can really operate and can really process it at a high level. And so kind of take the height requirement off of it, especially at the FCS level. But you're seeing that going all the way up to Power 5 these days with a guy like Dylan Gabriel. We were on him. We thought we were going to have a chance at him at NAU, and George offered him late. He ends up at UCF and now at Oklahoma. And I mean, that guy can operate. It doesn't really matter what his size is,
No doubt, man. Well, I love to hear that. Now, before I let you go here, you talked about a little bit of that success and leading the nation in passing in 2019. This past year, the team finished a little bit under 500, and the beauty of playing in the Big Sky is you got to show up every Saturday. It's a fantastic league. Your schedule featured 4 of the top 25 teams, 3 in the top 10, and you were able to win an FBS matchup versus Arizona. So that was awesome. What's been your message to your offense to help kind of get back over that hump and get back in the groove of things, especially with that tough schedule you got to show up for every week?
Yeah. The Big Sky. They got a lot of great schools and great coaches across the board. So it's no joke. But I think the main thing that we try to ask our guys are you concerned with looking good or getting good? All right. And if you're concerned with getting good, there's going to be some pain. There's going to be some defeat. There's going to be some hardship in going through that. But that's how you grow. That's how you get better. And we had a lot of young guys on our football team last year and have 10 starters returning on O and 9 on defense. So we're really excited for the year. And, if we can take those tough losses and use it to our benefit and grow from it, well, we're going to be that much further along this season and going forward. So there's something to be said for struggling together and having those ups and downs and building that consistency and continuing to hone our skill going into this season. And, I was out there with the guys yesterday and can't say enough about them as far as their work ethic, their togetherness, the leadership we have on our team. And so we're really excited to put that product on the field because we believe we have the right people and we're going through the right process, working hard every day. And so we feel like that's going to lead to great results this fall on the field.
I love it, Coach. Well, if you don't mind sharing your Twitter, just so coaches, if they want to kind of keep up with the journey, all that good stuff, or ask any questions, they can do so.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Coach. It's my name. So at Aaron Pflugrad, last name Pflugrad. But really appreciate having me on, Coach.
Yeah, no doubt, man. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes so guys can click and follow super easy, man. I appreciate, once again, you swinging by, spending a little time with us, and then also appreciate you hopping on with us right now. Best of luck rolling through the rest of the summer into the fall, and look forward to seeing you there in Charlotte in 23, okay?
Awesome. Appreciate your time, Coach.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about,
head over to afcapodcast.com where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Inside the Headset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, be sure to find us online at afca.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit afcainsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter at Coach Mario Price, and remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.